Hey guys, I'm the Comics Kid 2099. Once again, I have a book that I am here to review. This is a book that I read last week, Kid Eternity, written by Grant Morrison and drawn by Duncan Fegredo. Kid Eternity. This is kind of an unknown book that Grant Morrison did. I am a pretty huge fan of Grant Morrison. I've got a lot of his books here at my home. I've read most of his bibliography work. There's a lot of stuff that he's written that I haven't read, but I've read more of his work than I have a lot of other creators. I would say the thing is, before I get started here, you have to know there are two kinds of Grant Morrison. There's the kind who is easy to understand, and there's the kind who is not. The kind who is easy to understand, he is the guy who wrote JLA. I would say Animal Man falls in that category. I would say Doom Patrol kind of skirts the line, but I would say it falls in that category. If you read his Doom Patrol, Animal Man, or JLA, I would even say New X-Men, and I have very mixed opinions on his New X-Men run. There are things about it that I really love, and there are things about it I really hate, but I would even say his New X-Men is pretty easy to understand. Those are the books by Morrison that they're trippy, they're fun, but you're not feeling like you're confused or lost or you don't understand what's going on. Then you have other books by Grant Morrison. For example, Flex Mentallo, or The Filth, or Kid Eternity. This book spends about 2/3 of its runtime just really trying to throw you for a loop. It is trying its hardest to confuse you and make sure that you have no idea what's going on, and then in the last third of the book it finally starts to explain stuff, but by that point it is too little too late. And I think part of the problem here is I know nothing about the character of Kid Eternity. This was a character who was from Charlton Comics, if I'm not mistaken. He was acquired by DC Comics, or in the mid-'80s, I think, whenever DC got all of Charlton Comics. And this is one of those things that sort of tries to revamp the character. It tries to keep the character's backstory, but it also tries to change the character's backstory. And I have a feeling if I was more familiar with the Kid Eternity from the 1960s or the 1940s or whenever he's from, I would be much less okay with what this story tries to do. And I'm not going to go into a lot of spoilery details, but this is one of those things where you had innocent, kind of kid-friendly character in Kid Eternity, and then Grant Morrison tries to turn it into a mature, really kind of disgusting, morally reprehensible character. Not character, but he tries to reinvigorate the character's backstory by adding in a lot of really dark, depressing stuff that honestly, in my opinion, has no place in a character who is very kid-friendly and is an all-ages type character. I did not like that. This is adding in a lot of really, really dark, twisted stuff that I don't mind if comic books want to go there, but this is a character who, once upon a time, was a children's character. It was not a place where you would have really, really twisted stuff like serial killers and a lot of sexual depravity and stuff like that that I don't mind if that's in comic books, but honestly, it's not for me. It's not my bag. I go to comic books to escape the real world. I don't go to comic books to see everything that I think is wrong with the real world on the printed page. And I think in a lot of ways this book tries to do that, and that's probably its second biggest mistake. Its biggest mistake is that for 2/3 of its runtime it's trying to confuse the reader. It's like a merry-go-round that's going 1,000 miles an hour trying to throw the reader into the wall across the street, just trying its hardest to make you confused so that you have no clue what's going on. And I think part of that is that the story here is actually fairly simple if Grant Morrison just did the story in a simple way. But he keeps jumping around to different characters, and there's one character who literally, in probably the last 20 pages, you have no idea who this character is. You don't have any idea how this character ties in with the rest of the story. Then in less than the last 20 pages, it's like, oh, by the way, this is how that character ties in with these other characters. And I feel like the reason that Grant Morrison tries to do this in such a, I don't want to say non-linear way, but he kind of goes in circles trying to avoid doing the plot in a very traditional way. I think the reason he is trying to avoid doing it in a traditional way is because he knows that there really isn't much of a story here at all. And if he did this in a more traditional way, one, this would probably be about a third of the length that it actually is. And two, it wouldn't be that interesting. If this was done in a traditional way, nobody would care. And honestly, I'm not even sure if people care, period. Like I said, I'm a huge Grant Morrison fan. I have heard a lot of people speak volumes about his Animal Man, about his Doom Patrol, even about his New X-Men and JLA and Flex Mentallo. I have not heard anyone say one word about Kid Eternity. I have never heard anyone say anything about this book, and now that I've read it, I can kind of see why. This book is definitely just kind of, it's an obscurity in the works of Grant Morrison. It's not really something that deserves to be talked about because, in my opinion, it's not that good. And you know what? I didn't even talk about the artwork. I don't like it. Let me just show it to you here. The art is very sketchy. It's extremely hard to tell what's going on. There's sequences in this that take place in hell, and I can understand if you want the artwork to be very abstract in something like hell, where, you know, you're trying to make it look terrifying, and you're trying to make it look like it would drive a human being insane just being there. I can understand that, but the rest of this book is set on planet Earth, and I don't really need it to look like you took a piece of charcoal and you just scribbled something on the page and that's supposed to be a human being. I don't really need that in a comic book. I'm one of these weirdos. When I'm looking at artwork, I like to kind of know what's going on. I know that's weird, but artists like Dave McKean or Sam Keith or this guy, Duncan Fegredo, I don't really like that style of abstract sketchiness, if you will. I don't really like that kind of art, and this is one of those. This came out around the time when Arkham Asylum came out, and around the time when the Sandman was getting started, and Dave McKean was doing the covers of the Sandman. That kind of art was kind of at its height at that point, and I've honestly never liked that kind of art, and this is one of those examples where if the art was better, I might have enjoyed this book a lot more. If the art was just done by a different artist, I probably would have enjoyed this book a lot more. But also, there's the fact that the story itself is really nothing to write home about. This almost feels like you have characters like the Doom Patrol and Animal Man who really not a lot of people cared about. I know that the Doom Patrol, they already had like 19 issues in their series that was going on, and then Grant Morrison came in either issue 19 or 20 and kind of revamped the team. So there was a fan base for the Doom Patrol. People were reading that series, but with Animal Man, nobody even knew who that character was before Grant Morrison kind of revamped that character. I feel like he was doing this, he was revamping characters like the Doom Patrol and Animal Man, and then he just wanted to have a shot at Kid Eternity, but I don't really feel like he had a very good idea of how he wanted to revamp this character. This book is barely even about the character of Kid Eternity, and I think that might be a problem. With Animal Man and Doom Patrol, those series are actually about the character that they are about. This book, I feel like, I don't even know what Grant Morrison was trying to do here. Was he trying to revamp this character that had fallen into obscurity for 20 years? Or was he just wanting to do this weird story that happened to use a character who fell into obscurity 20 years ago? I don't know. Do I recommend this book? Absolutely not. I'm a huge Grant Morrison fan. I definitely think you can skip this. In fact, if you are a huge Grant Morrison fan and you haven't read this, I encourage you to skip this because it will make you think less of him as a writer. Now, I still like Grant Morrison. I still think very highly of a lot of the stuff that he has done, but this book made me realize more and more there's a lot of stuff that he's done that I don't think deserves the name Grant Morrison on the book. I think that he is a very brilliant writer at times, and then at times I think he's just kind of phoning it in, and I feel like this is one of those instances, unfortunately. But I don't think any less of Grant Morrison as a writer at this point. I'm very aware that he's written some stuff that I just don't like. This is probably the third such instance of something that I flat out did not like, unequivocally, with very little redeemable about it. I think there's been 3 things that he has done that I felt that way about, and this is number 3. I didn't like this book, but maybe you did. If you did, let me know in the comments below. Tell me why you like this book. I'm very interested in hearing if anyone has read this book before, because like I said, I had never heard anyone talk about this before I read it. I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And I will probably be doing a video tomorrow. Not a review, but something else that I've been planning for this whole week. And I will let you guys find out what that is tomorrow. So in the meantime, I will see you guys then. Have a great day.